Can you see the screen?
Yes, it's looks good.
Yes.
Perfect. So you're having a nice meeting, huh?
Yes, it's been going.
Yeah, I looked at the program. It looks very interesting, actually.
And
Yeah, thank you, Franz. Yeah, I think we're just a little disappointed on the turnout. I don't know why. We've normally got many more people here.
Yeah, no worries. It's always.
And maybe people are fatigued now with online.
Well, in generally, I would agree, but in your specific case here, I mean, that's probably the best possible option you have, right? I mean, otherwise you would never be able to get so many people together, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
do you remember how many we had last year, sort of on average, Simon or Lawrence?
It could go to 100.
Yeah, that's what I seem to remember. We had like 100.
150. So
Yeah, I don't know.
You mean inside of the session?
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, on average, sort of an average number.
I don't think it ever got that high.
It was at least 60. I mean, it was, it was many more. And you had a lot of registrations for the conference, and I guess I don't know why they didn't show up.
Yeah, I don't know if it's really different. But we can look at the numbers.
Yeah, I would do that when you get.
I think we've definitely gone over 100 at times.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
It's down.
Which resulted in a lot of LAMP fast team applications. We had a large number of people from Africa applying, and I'm sure it came from that from the conference.
Yeah, I think we get a good response from Africa for that, and then some of them have been in attendance, but people are not attending 100%.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, why don't we begin? So next, we will have a presentation from Professor Franz Pfeiffer discussing the Munich compact light source. To you, Franz.
Sure. Thank you very much. And great to be here again and to tell you a little bit about what we have running here in Munich. It's called a synchrotron, a compact synchrotron light source or laser-driven synchrotron light source. And that's here a little overview of your picture. And I just tell you a little bit about how this thing works and what it's good for or what we are using it for, and then also what it might be good for you and why it would be probably interesting to start with if you want to build up a synchrotron community. So you have now heard a lot about, sorry, nothing's working.
Not advancing.
Now we go, sorry. You've heard a lot about synchrotrons. I mean, these are obviously great. And everybody's now looking forward to get to the free electron laser sites and do all this work. But the big problem about synchrotrons is obviously that they're extremely expensive and super big. Yeah, so they need a lot of investment and need a lot of space, and that's something that is probably not the ideal thing if you are starting up a synchrotron community. So a compact light source, which is a much smaller footprint in terms of space, but also financially, is something that might be a good start in terms of getting a user community together. And the main idea that is underlying this principle of trying to shrink a big synchrotron is that if you look at the beam generation in a synchrotron, you basically have a periodic undulator, magnetic undulator structure, typically some centimeters or probably now just below a centimeter. And there's an undulator equation relating the electron beam energy in the storage ring together with this periodic magnetic array so that there's some X-rays coming out. And if you want hard X-rays in the 1 angstrom regime, with a centimeter period in the undulator, you need GeV electrons. And this also is the reason why the storage rings and LINACs are so big these days. Now, if you could, and you can, replace this undulator structure, now this periodic magnetic array, with something that has a much shorter pitch, microns, then you can also correspondingly lower the electron beam energy and still get out angstrom-like X-rays. And you can basically describe it here with this undulator equation. So there you basically enter the electron energy, this is the gamma factor, and you have some k value for the undulator, and there's the period of the undulator. So that's for the classical machine. You have a gamma value of 10 to the 4 roughly, and probably an undulator period 2 centimeters, you get to 1 angstrom. And if we now lower the electron beam energy to something like 25 to 45 MeV, we have a gamma that is much lower, like 50 or so. But with the infrared period of a standing infrared laser standing wave field, we get a period of about a micron, and we still get with the undulator equation to 1 angstrom. So there's just a few equations. Yeah, and that's basically what we have in Munich. We have it since about almost 10 years now. That's an initial photograph of the inauguration of that machine. It was originally built by Lynchian company that no longer exists, and we have since then basically improved this machine on several sites, in particular on the X-ray infrastructure, but also on the diagnostics, laser side, and thermal stability. That's a little overview. It's actually a Lego model, but that's very nice because we can then render and look at it from all sides. It's a little movie, so you can see how this thing looks from different sides. About 7 meters long altogether. On this part here in the front, we have the photocathode gun. It's basically a laser master oscillator triggering the release of electrons, and then we have accelerators. So these are basically klystron-powered cavities, 5 in a row, which we can use to bring up the beam energy to about 45 MeV at max. We then, from this LINAC, we inject this electron bunch through some transport line and a kicker into the storage ring, which has about 1.5 meters in diameter. 4 bending magnets, little bending magnets at the edges, and then we circulate this beam in there with about 65 megahertz. And on the other side, we have the laser system that delivers our laser. It has about 30 watts input power. And to bring this up to some reasonable energy and intensity, we actually feed this into a so-called laser cavity. It's a bow tie cavity with a very high finesse. And that brings up the actual laser power in the interaction point that is here at the center to something like 300 kilowatts maximum. And that basically means that we can, with the storage ring, use the bunch many times, the electron bunch, and with the laser cavity also use the laser bunch enhanced many times. And that basically makes this machine very nice, because we get, with relatively low input power, a relatively large average output, X-ray output. Yeah, so this is basically how it looks in this little overview video. This real life picture. Now looking from the photocathode gun to that machine. Here are also a couple of parameters. This is the transport line that I just mentioned before. This is a view on the kicker. We have quite a bit of shielding around because we also produce some neutrons, or can produce some neutrons up here. And this is a view on from the other side, from the laser system. All this thing is basically in an enclosure that has the dimensions what you typically have in a treatment unit in the hospital. So it's about 60, 70 centimeters of heavy concrete, and that's about it. So you can really fit this into a little building or hall, provided you have also the shielding available. Then the X-rays basically leave through some hole in this bunker, and then we have the whole X-ray infrastructure. And this is basically what we have built now the last few years. Presently, we have a first experimental hutch and then some second experimental hutch. And this is, let's say, a small version of what you typically see at a big synchrotron. One specialty is that we have basically no optics. So we can skip all these optics hutches that you typically have at big synchrotrons, because our beam naturally comes with a relatively narrow bandwidth, and we can use that pretty much as is. So here are some of the parameters, just to show you what we basically get. It's a laser system with about 1064 nanometer. As I mentioned, we can use this up to 350 kilowatts by now. And all this together with the electron bunches, with some 16 milliamps in the storage ring, we get to something like 4 times 10 to the 10 photons total output at 35 keV presently. And if you translate into the classical units of brilliance, we end up with something a bit more than 10 to the 10, which is actually quite good in that energy range. Of course, if you are looking at some lines, you can use liquid metal jet sources that are getting close. But this is now a beam that is actually freely tunable between an energy of 15 to 35 keV in our case. Yeah. This is how it looks like. So that's what you basically get out. That's a direct view of the beam shape. It has there's some entrance aperture. It's 4 milliradian, basically beam expanding. It has a slightly oval shape, but other than that, it's basically a homogeneous beam profile, which is quite neat. Remember, at a normal synchrotron, you always have a very asymmetric emission due to the asymmetric beta function of the electrons. So we're actually having a hard time in the vertical direction to get a reasonable field of view if you are looking at imaging experiments or anything like that. So this is quite nice. Yeah. And depending on where we actually put our sample, this beam is about like about 5 by 5 millimeters at the point where it exits the bunker, up to something like 60 millimeter round at the end of our experimental hall. And if you have a longer hall, you can just expand this as long as you want. This is just 3 exemplary spectra. So this tuning for 15 keV, for 25, and for 35. The spectrum is about 2 to 3% wide. Naturally, it has a relative sharp edge on the high end and a bit more of a tail on the lower end. That has to do with the emission. We can come back to that. Now, a few examples of what you can do with that. One really nice thing about that beam is that it's basically monochromatic and pretty homogeneous. So then when you're thinking about doing any, let's say, tomography, microtomography, or these kind of investigations, when you compare to normal lab sources, you always have the problem of beam hardening. So when you have highly absorbing parts in some otherwise not so absorbing sample, you always get these nasty streaks, cupping off artifacts that we also know from medical imaging. Yes, of course, you have lots of algorithms to get rid of that, but if you can just avoid those altogether from the beginning, it's of course much better. And if you scan a normal water cylinder in our compact light source, you basically see that the outcoming profile, when you do a cut through the reconstructed attenuation values, is just flat. Yeah. And it's also quantitative because you have a specific energy. When you do the same thing with any normal lab source, you always have this cupping, and then you have to figure out what is the mean energy, which has a spread, and so on and so forth. So if you are talking about quantitative CT imaging or material characterization, that's certainly an asset. Yeah. What have we done also? Big synchrotrons angiography has been explored for a while, because you can tune the beam right after the attenuation edge of a contrast agent, in our case here iodine. And if you do this, of course, you have some kind of advantages in contrast, because you don't have a broad spectrum that you are placing all over the energy landscape. but you have a narrow spectrum that you can tune right after an attenuation edge. And if you do this with a mock-up experiment, that's a pig heart, you see that you can visualize nicely these coronaries. And if you do a quantitative job, you can figure out that you gain at least 25% in contrast to noise ratio if you compare to a broad energy spectrum that is given to the sample to do the same experiment. So that might also ultimately have some advantages in small animal imaging with contrast agents, or if you want to think broadly, also maybe in human applications. Yeah, you can also go a step further and play a little bit with K-edges of materials. We have implemented, for example, some K-edge filter method where you add an additional K-edge filter in front of a sample which contains the same contrast agent. And with that, you can then also not only get an enhanced CNR for specific things, but also filter out contributions of other strongly absorbing substances. So that's again a little mock-up experiment where we have again our heart and then also some coronaries filled with iodine. You can see that here. But then there's also some overlaying bone structures. And those bone structures have similar attenuation as, for example, the iodine in this case. So they cannot easily be separated here, but they don't have any K-edges in that domain. And if you do this filter method, you can subtract off actually the bone, and then you can also isolate the iodine, and this is what you then get. So that is, so these are just two examples showing you that there's quite a bit of potential biomedical imaging and playing with these contrast agents and K-edges. Of course, we also have some degree of coherence. So that also means that we can play with propagation-based phase contrast imaging, meaning that if we just put the detector at different distances from the sample, we will see the evolution of Fresnel near-field diffraction fringes, which are very basically not pronounced if you are in the contact regime. And if you go further away, 10, 30, 150 centimeters, these become larger and larger. And yeah, the source has a rather small source size, about 50 microns. And due to the fact that it's a nearly parallel beam, we are far away, we can actually exploit these up to 1.5 meters, which would not be possible with normal lab sources. We have used this, for example, to study lung diseases, and a lot of small animal models with various lung diseases and airway obstructions and stuff like that. So this is a high resolution image of the nasal airways in a mouse. And this, for example, is an image of the full chest of a mouse, where you see these little wiggles here, which are basically all the alveoli in the lungs that you do not typically see in a contact regime. Only in phase contrast they become visible. One thing that we have also done, and that really shows the unique, let's say, beam profile and let's say asset of that source, is dynamic imaging of small animal models. We have an institute close by that is looking very closely at all sorts of drug deliveries for lung diseases. And one big question, of course, is where do all these aerosols go when you inject them in the nose? And this is extremely dependent on the aerosol particle size and the coating and many, many other parameters. And essentially, you really want this to be distributed, ideally in the whole lung and in also the distal airways. And depending on how you prepare it, it only goes in parts of the lungs. And we have done that by actually staining these aerosols again with contrast agent, and then you can actually follow up the distribution in a living mouse some minutes if you want, yeah. And you see here that this particular administration goes here and only goes here and up here, but on the other part of the lung there's pretty much nothing. And that is something that is really only possible easily at this source, because we have a large beam profile. And if you would like to do this at a normal synchrotron, you would actually have to devise a method to scan the mouse up and down all the time, or to expand the beam with fancy optics or something like this. And we just have it basically as is. And this is really nice, in particular for any type of small animal experiments and in situ experiments. And at the same time, these experiments require sources that are actually close to the biomedical facilities where all this research is done, because you cannot easily just transport these small animal models to and back to synchrotron sources. Yeah. One thing we also look very closely at is developing other visualization methods and also X-ray technologies for visualizing different diseases. We've done a lot of work on gradient-based phase and dark field contrast imaging for looking at the alveoli microstructure, and we found out that, for example, the dark field signal very nicely shows whether you have a fine distribution of healthy alveoli or more coarsely distributed alveoli due to, for example, emphysema that can be caused by air pollution or smoking. And this is something you cannot easily pick up in normal attenuation images. And that's also something that has now finally led also to actually prototypes that we have built and installed in our university hospital's radiology department for patient studies, which are presently running. Yeah. Again, this you can do dynamically. That shows, for example, a time-resolved video or snapshots of a video where we have actually looked at the dark field signal as a function of the breathing state, and you can learn a little bit about when you look at these curves, about the dynamical behavior of the lung, and that is also related to the ability to recruit all alveoli, because there's lots of lung diseases where these alveoli collapse again, and then the big problem is that you have to go in with ventilation methods to activate these again. And when you do this dynamically, you can basically learn and see how much of a ratio you have managed to reactivate again after it might have been collapsed or filled with a liquid or something like that. We have also done quite a bit of work on osteoporosis and bone structure imaging. That's a nice example of a wrist. That's an ordinary X-ray image on the left, where all these bones just appear different intensities, shades of gray here. And that's now some two images that are quite tricky. These images basically represent the porosity and also the level of orientation. So this thing here, this image basically is bright whenever you have bone structures oriented and not just distributed randomly. And what you now see here is, here's this growing line. In that part, the cortical bone is actually relatively structured, so it's a bright signal, and there's also the direction. You see it's all going pretty much in that direction. And then at some point, the bone basically becomes randomly oriented, and that's also known from pathology and stuff like that. And it's now very interesting to look at this kind of stuff when you have bone remodeling, because when new bone grows, it's first of all completely randomly oriented, so you would see this expected, but at some point, this first bone disappears and you get that again, the structures, and that of course depends on, again, the ability to regenerate, stuff like that. So that's a non-destructive method to do this. Yeah. And finally, now from a completely different direction, and Simon asked me to also include a few more words about that. Basically, we have been trying all different synchrotron methods and try to figure out which ones we can easily translate to the compact light source and which one to probably not make so much sense. And one thing that really worked out quite nicely was some recent attempts to also move into spectroscopy with that source. And the nice thing about the beam is it has just the right energy spread, namely 2 to 3%, what you need for basically EXAFs, so energy dispersive X-ray absorption spectroscopy scans. Because what you can do is you can use the natural divergence of 4 milliradian that we have together with this 2 to 3% bandwidth, and basically throw this at some silicon crystal, a slab in Laue geometry. Then you basically get some Laue reflections for different energies. And at some point, of course, those will be refocused. That is not of importance here, but if you place the sample a bit further upstream here and the detector right after, you basically have a slight energy gradient across this field of view, and you are directly actually mapping this onto an imaging detector. And if you then do profiles over the detector, you actually get a one-shot EXAF spectrum, provided your sample is extended. You can also do it here and then let it expand again. Then you have the same thing in the scanning thing. And that actually turned out to work very nice. Yeah. So here we have examples containing silver. Silver is an edge that we can nicely access at around 25 keV, fits to our energy spectrum. And we have here silver foil, some silver oxide powder, and some silver nitride, okay? And these are the different EXAF spectra. This is Xane spectra, state of the art from large synchrotron. And this is what we can do at Muckel. So this actually looks really, really nice. And I do think that that is an application that, of course, opens now suddenly all these environmental sciences and all these people. I mean, if you look at classical synchrotrons, you see that probably 20, 25, 30% of users come from that field. We've actually now gotten a bit more applied. We have a couple of people in chemistry studying surface patterning and surface modification. And this is something where we have done in situ experiments. We build a little chamber with some thermocouple and heater and stuff like that. And then we have basically been looking at palladium. Palladium is also something with an energy, with a K edge in our energy range. And this is now a study where you have hydrogen pre-treated palladium as a catalyst, and it turns out that this pre-treated palladium has different properties associated with its catalyst function, and that's quite interesting to look at in detail. And here you have basically these different formations when you go from palladium to palladium hydride, and these are the tiny little differences that you see in the sample spectrum, which we can also resolve very nicely. And that's again something that is probably nicely doable when you are right at the chemistry department or some larger research center which does all this work, because these are typically or sometimes quite complicated experiments. Yeah, of course, there's plenty more examples. If you want to know a bit more, we have a couple of press releases out there at our university homepage. You can also contact me anytime. Here's some selected publications that I just throw into the talk. We have published about 50 papers with the source by now. These are some of the ones I think are more important. And yeah, of course, there's a couple of more people that have contributed to that. So we are running this source as part of a laser facility or laser center. We do have quite some support from other groups here at our university who are very good in laser cavities, and that's also one of our future development paths. We are planning to replace this infrared laser by a green laser with half the wavelength, which would then actually get our energy range up to 70 keV, which would really be very nice for us, because I think in generally, and that's generally true, these sources become more and more competitive and are performing much better compared to anything you can do with the normal lab sources at higher energy. So I think at 70 kV will be 2 or 3 orders of magnitude above anything what you could do with a normal lab source. Yeah, there's lots of people from the clinical side. And meanwhile, yeah, of course, we still have contact to some of the former Lynchian folks. In terms of accelerators, we have now just partnered with research instruments. They are actually overlooking our maintenance for the accelerator part. The laser part we're doing ourselves by now. And with that, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much. Well, it's
sure, welcome.
We really enjoyed that. Are there questions? Anybody have questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands.
I raised my hand. I don't know if that means.
I don't see. Okay, okay, go ahead.
Tabitha, why don't you go ahead, because you might have time constraints.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask you about the XAFS data that you showed. It was actually very beautiful data next to the synchrotron data. Are you able to really get out the same radial distribution functions? And also, we know that at the synchrotron, we can get down to some ppm level with this technique with the compact light source. Are you able to get down to a ppm level? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. We can't beat the synchrotrons. Yeah, I mean, it's just in the end a signal to noise ratio question, and you just have way more flux at the big synchrotron. One constraint here is that in this case the sample is relatively extended. So I think when you have a lot of sample material, the scans that we get are really relatively equivalent to what you can do at a big synchrotron. But when you get down to smaller and smaller quantities of samples and doing stuff on little micrometer sizes, we will certainly not be able to compete with big synchrotrons. So it's a question of how much material you have available. In terms of sensitivity, we haven't really done any detailed studies yet. We have measured some concentrations. I can refer you to the 3 papers that we have published. There are some details in there, but we have just started that and have not really gotten too. And I also must say that I'm personally not really an expert in that, so but if you have an idea, if you want to do something, we can also think about what might be an important question or thing that you need to have answered for progressing in your direction.
Okay, Lawrence.
Yeah, couple of questions. So, have you gotten to the point where you're like a user facility, so you have people coming to you asking for time on the machine that are not at your institution or in other departments?
Yes. So, I mean, this thing is not set up as a formal official user facility. It's part of a research center that is looking at whatever applications of high power lasers or lasers in general and secondary sources. And within that consortium, it's part of eight larger institutes here in Munich at our 2 universities. We are basically using this. But we do regularly and probably on a 1 to 2 month turnaround invite external people, because it's also important to us that other people use the machine and that this is also transported to the outside world. Right. But that this is then always done on some kind of, I would say, friendly collaboration basis. So whenever you have a good idea, And whenever we like you and feel that this makes sense and leads to some reasonable publication, we can do something together. But
Right.
it's not a formal user facility by now. Yeah.
Got you. How are you getting along with the maintenance and parts
Yeah.
and stuff now that there's no more Lincean?
Yes, so it was a bit rough in the beginning because it was never really our intention to do all that ourselves. But we got a bit of a pre-warning during COVID. They also did not really show up for a year and a half. So there we already had to step in and do a lot of stuff ourselves. Actually, the accelerator part is something where we are really not so good, but luckily we have now basically gotten research instruments to take care of the maintenance of the accelerator. And they are a company that they do a lot of work in that direction and know how to handle that. So that's no problem. And on the laser side, we have meanwhile gotten quite good in managing all this ourselves. So presently we are actually kind of independent, and this looks really good. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Franz. We really appreciate it.
Sure.
Let us move on to the next speaker, our great colleague, Giorgio Paolucci from Electra, and he will discuss the machine and science highlights there. Take it away.
Okay, thank you, Sakazi. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Good, that's good. Let's try to share the screen as well. Sorry. Just a minute. It's terrible nowadays. You have these powerful computers and you have so many windows. I hope to share the correct one. There it is. Can you see it?
There you go. Yes, we see it.
Okay, great. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you again. I'll tell you something about Electra, who we are, how we manage the facility, and what are our main, I'll show you some examples of applications and our next future. Okay, Electra is a strange object. We are basically a non-profit shareholder company of national interest. That is the definition the Italian law gives of us. And all our shareholders are public, as you can see. So the Area Science Park is the majority shareholder. It's a national research institution. Then we have the federal government, the regional government of the region where we are, and the National Research Council, and a small participation by Invitalia. And we were established in '87 with the idea of building a facility complementary to the ESRF, basically for the soft X-ray range, with the objectives shown here. At the moment, we have something of the order of 400 people, staff, plus 100 about postdocs and trainees of various kinds. On top of that, we have participation of a number of research institutions, both national and international. Of course, we have large, as I'll show you in a while, we have many beamlines co-managed with the National Research Council, but also with international partners. We host two accelerator-based sources. We have at the moment we have a third generation synchronization facilities, as a third generation storage ring, which, as I'll show later, we're going to replace with a new multi-band Achromat storage ring. More recently, about 10 years ago, we started the operation of a 3-electron laser facility, which is so far still the only seeded 3-electron laser facility in the world, in the sense that we triggered we started the formation of emission with an external laser. As I said, now we focused for a while. Most of the talk will be on the storage ring. I will just give you one example of the FEL facility. As I said, we have a strong, we have a number of partner institutions, which is shown here. Here is the portfolio of existing beamlines. The logo that you see repeated several times is the logo of the Italian National Research Council, but you see also the logo of IAEA, you see ICTP, you see flags around, you see a Czech flag, an Austrian flag, a Romanian flag, Slovenia, Germany, and India. We have a tradition of openness towards international cooperation, although we are a national facility, so most of our funding comes from the Italian government. However, we have always been open to international cooperation in general, both in terms of building beamlines and in terms of accepting users coming from worldwide. The reason why it's convenient for international partners to work with us, that is not only Telectro, of course, but we being one of the oldest third generation synchronization in the world, synchronization sources in the world, and somehow get the start that is that we can, depending on the type of investment the international partners give, we agree on percentage of beam time. So, for example, for the Indian partners, they get 50% of the available public beam time on the two beam lines, which are dedicated to protein diffraction and high pressure diffraction studies. In a typical year, I'm showing you what happens in terms of proposals. This is on a logarithmic scale so that you can see all the countries. This is the numbers for 2021, but it's the same. I mean, the total numbers are more or less constant. You see that in 2021 we had over 1,000 proposals, of which 448 were from Italy, so less than half were from Italy. And the second partner, the second country is India. Then we have Germany, France, Brazil, and so on and so forth. We do have users from Africa as well. You will see, if you look, we have users from South Africa and from Egypt and from Kenya and other countries. So This is in terms of nationality. This is the statistics is based on the country of the affiliation of DPI, just to be sure on the numbers we are referring to. And there are, if you look in our terms, so in terms of our proposal review panel, they are distributed in this way, with a growing interest, growing weight from life science and other, let's say, and hard X-ray in general methods, which somehow contradicts the original mission, which I mentioned before. And for this reason, which was to complement the Italian efforts at the SRF. And for this reason, we are actually, in the future, we are enlarging our hard X-ray offer for the user community. In 2022, we had we had more than 500 articles on peer-reviewed journals. Where they were 540 in the year before, number around 20 conference proceedings and books and so on. If you look, these are numbers which were cross-checked with our database and Scopus. So you probably don't know that, but it is very hard to get these numbers from for facilities. And if you look at the categories on Scopus, this is the pie chart showing the distribution. I didn't go into too many details, so these are, so I cut the number of articles to a number to 5. So those scientific areas which had less than 5 publications are not shown here. That is, and you see that physics and is around 1/5 of the total articles produced, and together with material science, we go almost to 50%. Then, of course, it depends on how you characterize, how you categorize your the publications. This is something which is done automatically by Scopus, so I'm not going to the very many details. I'm showing that because it is important to underline also, in view of the fact that you want to propose or you are proposing to build a facility. It is important to show how multidisciplinary a center like that is. And indeed, if you look at the applications, we go from traditional fields such as surface science, which happens to be the field I come from, and so somehow it moves my heart to see that what I started 30 years ago is still up and running. So this is a recent publication on doing photoelectron diffraction of showing how you can use the diffraction of photometer electrons to look at the subsurface structure of dopants. So this is and basically what they do here, they identify the various components of the core of the silicon 2p level, and so you can fit it and associate each of these peaks with a particular position inside or a particular species below the surface, and then you look at the angular distribution, and from this you get the structure of the surface. But then, okay, if you jump to a completely different application, we have quite a number of activity, quite an activity in cultural heritage. This is a more recent publication which appeared last year, in which basically they used the infrared spectroscopy to characterize the varnish of which Stradivari was using for his violins. So that is interesting, because by looking at that, I mean, you can identify, or you can try to identify some of the secrets that were used in the past, and try to reproduce the sound in more modern violins. I'm not showing everything because of the limited amount of time, but that goes together with other methods which we are using also to study string or bow instruments in general, which I mean, together with the, say, surface chemical characterization, we can do structural characterization by using tomography, of course. So by combining the knowledge of how the wood was worked and how the cover was done, then you can really have to hope to get information on the procedures that were used at the time. Going to hard X-rays, this is an example of the zeolite study that was done with X-ray diffraction, and which basically, and now I would like to notice the list of authors, which is a nice combination of people from China and people from Italy. So it's it gives you an idea of how open we are. And this shows clearly a transition which happens around 500 degrees, showing the change in the structure of this zeolite, and that correlates to this is important to, because you can associate that with a change of volume for which of course change the catalytic activity of these zeolites. And of course, we can study batteries, and again, combination of people from very many. This is the Nature Communication, again published last year, showing how the system evolve during charging and uncharging, discharging of the battery, and showing how the structure of the electrode change. Already we heard in the previous talk a nice example of life science. So we are also doing life science. We have some rather traditional, or if you want, we do have an activity in proton crystallography, and I'm showing you one result which was published last year showing now I'm talking about things I don't really fully understand. So please do not ask questions about this particular topic. But this is showing the location of the active sites of the compounds which can be cure or can be used as cure for SARS-CoV-2, so COVID-19. And also, we have a tradition in X-ray imaging for life science, so going towards more medical applications of hard X-rays. And this is an old picture. We had a pilot program together with a local hospital for mammography, and we are expanding this program, as I will say in a while. This is showing that basically that by using the high level of coherence that you can get from a synchrotron, you can actually get more details on microcalcification. So you can actually see microcalcifications in real patients at a very early stage. So that was done a few years ago. We developed a whole the whole design of the bed of the patient bed, so you can see there's a real patient over there. Now, together with that, we are moving towards lung diseases, and we have here I apologize for the Italian. Anyway, so this was done together with a German group, but this is showing some images coming from lung explants from patients who actually died for COVID. So that shows the kind of damage COVID was giving in the first wave. And so these are important information that we can get. Of course, COVID is one possible disease. I'm not full screen. I just saw.
Yeah, no, Giorgio. Maybe better to go full screen, please.
Right.
Is it better?
That's
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Sorry. I didn't see the chat. So I was not actually looking at the chat. Okay. 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 So this is. But wait a minute. I promise I will go back to full screen in a minute. But I have to do another thing. Okay. Now I go full screen again. Okay. Okay, so this is the characterization in terms of morphology, but well, you can do more. We can do more than that, and this is the characterization again on lung tissue coming from the hospital, basically, and this is done with soft X-ray fluorescence, and that gives you the elemental distribution within the lesion within the within the tissue. So that also important information for the medical doctors. And the life science efforts are complemented on site with the activities on. Okay, this is the beamline, but what we are doing here that we can actually complement the activity on the beamline, which is what you are seeing with the structure laboratory, which we structure biology laboratory, which we have. So, which includes facilities for molecular biology, large-scale protein production, purification, and so on. So this is also important that to keep in mind that you should always think of a sample production and characterization laboratory close to the beamlines. I skipped a few slides, which you will get anyway, and I'll send you the complete PDF later. We have a number of activities with IAEA. We are part of LAMP. We have a partnership with ICTP, with the ICGB. We have an MOU with Sesame, and we are working. We have a pilot action for young scientists from the Western Balkans. Within LAMP, we had about. I don't think these are the latest numbers, but we had something of the order of 20 visitors within the LAMP project, most of them coming from Africa. And we are part of CERIC, which is the Central European Research Infrastructure Consortium. The future. Okay, we are going to change, to completely replace the storage ring. So these are, which we called with a lot of fantasy, Electra 2. By going, and we will go from a double band achromat, which is shown on the left of this picture, to a 6-band achromat, which is on the right. And the challenge is that we are going to do it, which means, of course, at least triple the number of magnets, but it is actually many more than that, and fit them in the same machine tunnel, because we got financial support for the machine upgrade, for beamline upgrade, but not for a new building. So the building has to be the same. This is a view of how complex the new ring. So this is a section of the half achromat, where you see the three bending magnets plus the quadrupoles and sextupoles, which are going to be installed. And I don't think I have it, but we're going to it's incredible to see how smaller the vacuum chamber is going to be, and so that means that it will be extremely challenging actually to align the whole system and have it work. Indeed, we had discussions between the machine people and the beamline people, and when the beamline people got worried about the stability of the beam, the machine people said, look, the constraints are so high for this machine that either the beam is stable or there will be no beam at all. So don't worry about the stability, which is the point of view. So the idea is to keep our role in the panorama of the facilities. I try to attract new user communities by we will also try to reach a picosecond time resolution, and so this is what is going to happen. And in general, we will have, you see, this kind of performance of these two. If you look at the two black background figures on the top, which are on the same scale, you see how smaller the beam size is going to be at the sample. So the increase in brightness is really going to give new opportunities. New opportunities which span from basic science, basic physics, to life sciences. We have started, as I said, a program for lung imaging, and in the right bottom of this figure, you see the machine that we got from our German colleagues, which is used at the moment for to study entire lungs coming from pigs, basically. So it's a pig lungs, but we are going to have a specific beamline, which I'm going to show you here. We're going which is the green one here, which is called CIRMEC for Life Science, which is the only beamline which will go outside of the main building, and which will allow imaging on entire lungs of living humans with that will be done by using a superconducting super bending magnet, which will extend the critical energy up to, as you can see, up to 70 or 80 kiloelectron volt, and by enlarging the beam, you can image the whole thing. Now, since I've seen that time is getting short,
and you can 2 minutes over the next couple of minutes.
That's what I'm going to do. So I will entirely skip Fermi and just come to the conclusions. Basically, I hope to convince you that later I mentioned Fermi because I had one example on Fermi, but okay, I hope you will believe me. If you're producing high level the international research, multidisciplinary research, being open to the international research community is a key factor. You have to, it took us some time to find a good balance between user research, collaborations, internal research. This is a delicate issue that was mentioned and also before, but it's a delicate issue because on one side you want to offer the best support you can to your external users, but at the same time, you don't want your researchers to become super technicians who are slaves of the external users. So you have to allow them to do their own research. we noticed that there is more and more demand about multi-method experiments. And scientific success was a key issue for us because that gave us credibility and allowed us to get financial support for the new parade, which was of the order of 200 million euros. So this was done basically on the basis of the success. So I skipped a few slides, but I will send you the whole set. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. You covered quite a bit there. Very interesting. Thank you. Let me ask you a quick question. The number of bioscience researchers seemed a little low to me. It was something on the order of 20% or less. Is that, am I wrong? I mean, isn't it a little higher at most of the other big facilities?
Wait a minute. Yes. That comes from the relatively recent. Let's put it this way. We started as a soft X-ray machine. There is something which is probably hidden in chemistry, but the biochemistry, genetics, and microbiology is small. The protein crystallography beamline started its operation, the Indo-Italian beamline started its operation, I think, 5 years ago. And so we're still in the process of building a community around that. So we are going within the ELECTRA 2 program, we're going to build a brand new beamline with much better performance. At the moment, we are limited in the sample size. The source is not optimal. We're using a superconducting Wiggler as a source. I will not go into the whole story of why we're using a superconducting Wiggler. But the final result is that the spot size is of the order of, if I remember correctly, about 200 microns, which is far too large for the what is needed nowadays for protein crystallography. So what we are doing is in the ELECTRA 2 ring, we are going to use in vacuum modulators. In particular, one in vacuum modulator will be dedicated to a microdiffraction beamline, where we will be able to get a beam size down to a few microns, but also we will introduce a method to look also at larger samples of the order of 50 microns. There are some discussions going on the way we do it, whether we do it in discrete way or with a continuous change of the optics. But anyway, that would be certainly possible. So with these new methods, will certainly become more attractive.
Great, fantastic. Okay, I don't see any other hands raised.
I had a question.
So why don't? Yes, go ahead.
Maybe I did want to touch bases with you because we know that the AU commissioner visited ELECTRA a few months ago, and maybe we can talk offline about what your impression of the outcomes of that visit were.
Yes, he was very impressed. He liked the idea. We discussed the possibility of hosting a dedicated beamline for the African community. So apparently he was interested. And of course, that could be also we are very flexible, so we can consider, for example, the possibility of hosting a dedicated instrument or a dedicated beamline, and which can then be transferred to the AfLS source, or we can discuss a model in which you get investment from Africa and distribute a dedicated time on the various beamlines at Electra, depending on the needs of the African community. So there are several models that we can use to start to establish an MOU of some kind. And I briefly mentioned that the variety of possibilities to him, and he looked interested. But so we have the contacts that then he was not. I mean, I was not contacted afterwards. So maybe we should give some more momentum again to the possibility. As I said, we have a precedent. I mean, we have this wonderful collaboration with India, and I mean, so we know how to do this kind of. Which, by the way, I mean, we already started the discussions with our Indian counterparts to see how this will evolve in view of the new machine. So we are rediscussing all our partnerships because of the new machines, but we are open to start the new ones because there are both scientific reasons and political reasons, and last but not least, the financial reasons, in the sense that 200 million euros is a lot of money, but it's not enough to do exactly all what we want. So.
Right. That's always the case.
Exactly. So.
More. Okay, great. Why don't we move on then? Thank you, Giorgio.
Okay.
On to let's see. Next is Professor Peter Mallon, who will discuss the Federation of Commonwealth Chemical Sciences Societies. So take it away, Professor Mallon.
Yes, well, first of all, good evening, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity to share with you some of the experiences we've had with the Commonwealth Chemistry. First of all, just let me start off by giving an apology for our president, Professor Neil Koval. He is currently having a knee operation. So he asked me if I'd stand in for him and share some of the experiences we've had with regards to Commonwealth Chemistry. So I'm Professor Peter Mallon, talking to you from Stellenbosch University here in South Africa. So just in the 15 minutes, I hope to give you a little bit of a flavor of how Commonwealth Chemistry actually developed. Initially, Commonwealth Chemistry started with the initial discussions way back in 2018. There was a meeting held in London with various representatives from the chemical societies from around the Commonwealth. This was followed up by another meeting in Singapore towards the end of 2018. And on the left-hand side is just kind of a mind map, or just a sort of a cartoon of some of the issues that came up in those initial meetings. And then it was in Paris in 2019 at the IUPAC General Assembly. We had an opportunity where the presidents of many of the Commonwealth or the chemical societies from the various Commonwealth countries happened to be in Paris at the same time. And at that time, it was decided to formalize this process of creating the structure which is called Commonwealth Chemistry. So it was really at the middle of 2019 through 2020 that the formal structure was actually put together. Just on the right-hand side, you can see some of the principles, the vision, one community, one voice for all. And very, very importantly, in Commonwealth Chemistry, there was a recognition that there needs to be equal and inclusive representation, but also importantly, a situation where there is a recognition that those with greater resources would have to inevitably contribute more to those with fewer resources. So in principle, as you can see, the vision, the guiding principles and the mission are fairly high level and fundamentally to promote chemistry within the Commonwealth countries. So, as I said, I was involved in the initial setting up of Commonwealth Chemistry. The structure, I'm not sure that it matters too much, but it is a formal structure that is registered as a company within the UK. And effectively, it's controlled by the executive board. Just with regards to what makes this somewhat different, I guess, is that the actual members are chemical societies, not individual members. It's the individual chemical societies that are a member of Commonwealth Chemistry. And as I said, the Commonwealth Chemistry, the controlling structure is the executive board. And the executive board is consisting of elected members. There's some appointed members. But very, very importantly, one of the things that we have been extremely lucky is that we get secretarial support from the RSC, the Royal Society of Chemistry in London. They provide the secretarial support for Commonwealth Chemistry, and that's a contribution that the RSC has decided that they want to make. So just in terms of the member societies, well, in the Commonwealth, those of you from Commonwealth countries will probably know this, there's about 56 member states in the Commonwealth organization. And currently we have 25 member societies of Commonwealth Chemistry, very good representation of chemical societies from Africa. More or less all the Commonwealth countries that have a formal chemical society are also now members of Commonwealth Chemistry. And of course we do have what we call our affiliate member program, where countries that don't actually have a chemical society can join it in affiliate member. And one of the things that we try and do at Commonwealth Chemistry is try and provide the support to any country that is looking to create a chemical society. So as I mentioned, fairly good representation from Africa. Of the 25 member societies, 9 of them are from Africa. Just in terms of the ones highlighted in red are some of the newer members that have joined Commonwealth Chemistry. And as you go through the list, you can see a fairly diverse group of chemical societies, both in terms of geographical diversity, but also in terms of resources. And as I say, one of the principles we have in Commonwealth Chemistry is to share as far as possible the resources across all the member societies. So maybe, of course, I have very little time. So one of the things was to decide what sort of role can a federation of federations effectively achieve. And of course, the area where potentially the biggest impact can be is on developing early career chemists in our case. So very early on, we started with a project which was effectively to to determine the state of early career chemists across the different Commonwealth countries. This resulted in this report, which is freely available if you go to the Commonwealth Chemistry website. But I think that report did give us some very useful insights, some not completely unexpected. For example, on the bottom left over there, we highlight the difference between the early career researchers in high income countries versus low and middle income countries, in this particular case with access to subscription scientific publications. And clearly in the low and middle income countries, there is some lesser access. The other thing is in terms of the people who responded again across the different countries where their research fits in, and these are more or less aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. But also, if you see in the top right-hand corner over there, one of the other interesting factors was that it came out that our early career chemists across the different Commonwealth countries are held back by some sort of things that are impacting negatively on their careers. So as we saw in the previous slide, about almost 80% identified the lack of promotion opportunities, 73% lack of mentoring and support, 72% lack of access to equipment. And in each case, about a third of the respondents indicating that this had a very, very negative impact on their career development. But nevertheless, the report is quite comprehensive. I'm not going to give much more on that, other than to say that this report did give us guidance as the executive board in terms of... Sorry, sorry, I just heard somebody speak.
Can everybody mute? Would everybody mute? Okay, why don't you try it? Hope it doesn't happen again.
Okay, sorry. Yes, some of the outcomes, I think that's more important than the details of the thing, were some of the commitments from Commonwealth Chemistry with regards to early career chemists, the empowering of early career chemists to build networks, help them with career development, including non-technical skills, and then, of course, championing equality in chemistry and facilitate knowledge sharing. It became clear that in some countries, for example, there were severe gender inequalities and opportunities. So those were some of the commitments that Commonwealth Chemistry has made as a result of that initial report. But also, importantly, the Commonwealth Chemistry was able to make some recommendations to other stakeholders, including to the Commonwealth Chemistry organization itself, in encouraging the Commonwealth, broader Commonwealth, to encourage greater scientific collaboration. There's certainly a need for it amongst our early career chemists, and certainly we strongly feel that the various initiatives can actually build capacity across the Commonwealth. And then the other recommendations we were able to make is to our funders or funders of research in terms of the number of targeted grants for early career chemists, but also it was clear that one of the identified hindrances for early career chemists from the middle and lower income countries was availability of equipment and the ability or the lack of funds to travel to places where they could actually do what they needed to do, to develop their research careers. There were some other recommendations, for example, employers in terms of providing some degree of stability in terms of jobs, etc. But as I say, this is one of the outcomes of the initial report. I'm very glad to say that subsequent to that, there has been a major effort from Commonwealth Chemistry. In fact, Neil Koval, as his presidency now of Commonwealth Chemistry, is to pursue the networking aspect, and we have launched an early career network of chemists across all the Commonwealth countries. And just to give you a flavor of some of the things we've done just this year, so this is just activities we've had for 2023. The first one, of course, the second Commonwealth Chemistry Congress that was held in Trinidad and Tobago. That was an absolutely fantastic event. It had, I had the opportunity to attend it as well. It was a by invitation only conference, but it literally had equal representation from all the different Commonwealth nations of 3 early career chemists. So each of the member societies, in effect, and associate members had the opportunity to send 3 early career chemists to Trinidad and Tobago. It was an overwhelmingly successful conference. It had a unique vibe to it, basically, you know, having all these young, enthusiastic early career chemists presenting their work, also taking part in workshops on career development, etc. We also this year had the 4th Commonwealth Chemistry Poster Event. This was also a great success. This was an online poster event. We had, in the end, I think it was 260 people presenting posters, and there were various awards. And then we are continuing with other sort of career development opportunities. The one on the right-hand side, the Commonwealth Chemistry's Pathway to Success. This is a webinar that will happen on the 21st of November. And I'm sure if anybody on this, listening to this, wants to attend that, I'm sure there's no issue with that. You can register on the Commonwealth Chemistry website. So that just gives you a feel for the types of activities. Very strong focus on early career chemists. I'm pleased to say that the 3rd Commonwealth Chemistry Conference will be in Africa. So that will be in 2025, and it will be hosted here in South Africa. And we're hoping to build on that success that we had of the Congress that we had in Trinidad and Tobago earlier this year. So then, yeah, just briefly, a couple of other resources available to our members. As I've mentioned, we have various webinars, various sort of activities to help people both interact, build their network, and of course improve their skills. Also, Commonwealth Chemistry does play a role in policy development, but there's 2 sort of policy involvements specifically as an organization. The one was Commonwealth Chemistry's endorsement at COPE of a statement on sustainability and critical raw materials, but also in terms of statements with regards to chemical pollution policy and so forth. So we do also involve ourselves in sort of international policy development in the sense of issuing statements and so forth. So that really is what I thought I'd just tell you. I'm not sure if that gives you a little bit of a flavor for what Commonwealth Chemistry actually does and how it's actually structured. Certainly, if anybody's interested in the structure, there's a very good website. You can go along to the website. The website address is there, and find out a little bit more about the activities of the organization. So I hope in the short time that I had, I've given you a little bit of a flavor of our organization.
Yes, you did. It's quite informative. So we definitely need. Absolutely. Okay. Are there any questions? I don't see any hands raised. I don't see anything in the chat. Any questions? Okay. Well, thanks again, and hope. Oh, go ahead.
Tabitha had a question.
Yes, thank you. And the question is related to how how involved are related fields, chemistry and related. So is material science involved, some aspects of condensed matter physics and things like that, or is it primarily the strictly chemistry researchers involved?
So that's actually a very good question, because, of course, let me say that the Commonwealth Chemistry is a federation of chemical societies. So within the individual chemistry societies, of course, as you know, there are materials groups, condensed matter groups, and so forth. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's exclusively chemistry, it's exclusively chemical societies, but I think that encompasses all of the various activities or divisions within the member society. So certainly that is the case, although, of course, we're not a federation of physics societies. So I think there is a lot of overlap in some sense. But as I say, it does depend, I guess, on various chemical societies. I'm South African Chemical Institute. We do have divisions that are very much more focused on the material side as well. So certainly that chemist's perspective, I guess, on materials.
Mm-hmm. Great, fantastic. So I'm sure, Simon, since you're both in South Africa, will be able to interface with you much more, because we definitely need to collaborate and partner with your organization. Okay, thank you. Okay, so next we have, sure. Next we have Professor Hetin Li from the University of Science and Technology in China, and he will bring us up to date on the Hefei synchrotron facility that's being upgraded. Thank you, Professor Li.
Can you hear me?
Yes, but
thank you for the invitation from the conference, and it's a great honor to give a talk. In this talk, I will give an overview of accelerators facilities at NSIRL in China, including the status of Hefei Light Source 2, the new fourth generation diffraction limited storage ring, and recently constructed infrared FER. And I'm Hetin Li, speak to you in Hefei, China. My report will be divided into 3 parts, corresponding to the 3 facilities in our lab. Firstly, I will introduce the Hefei Light Source 2. Our lab is called National Synchrotron Radiation Laboratory. It's the first national lab in China since 1983, and it's also the birthplace of China's synchrotron radiation research and development. And the Hefei Light Source was born in 1991. And it is also the first dedicated synchrotron radiation light source in China. After more than 20 years of operation, it was upgraded in 2014. These 2 pictures show the storage ring of Hefei Light Source before and after the upgradation. And now, at present, the Hefei Light Source is called AfLS2. We use full energy LINAC as the injector for the storage ring, and the beam energy is 800 MeV with dBA lattice. Actually, it's a 2nd generation light source. It's really small with a circumference of only 66 meters. But we have 8 3 sections, and 6 of them are used for insertion device. This slide shows the operation performance of Hefei Light Source 2. After the upgradation in 2014, we experienced 300 milliampere decay, and then we increased the beam current to 360 milliampere. And in 2018, we developed the top-off operation model. And in recent 4 years, we keep in 400 milliampere top-off operation. From the left, you can see the operation parameters of Hefei light source. From these parameters, you can see the machine is running really good. Here is the beamline list of Hefei light source 2. In total of 11 beamlines, and 5 of them are from the insertion device, and the others from the binding magnet. All of these beamlines are new built after the upgradation, and some of them have been upgraded in recent years. Every year we received many user proposals, and from the institutions in China and also abroad. Generally speaking, we executed user proposals about 400 to 500 each year. And here we show the publications in the past 3 years. We can see in last year, more than 300 papers are published in journals with high impact factor. And this is the user highlights example. It's about the clean utilization of core. And this research also won the National Nature Science First Prize in 2020. Okay, let's move to the Hefei Advanced Light Facility. You may know in the mainland of China, currently there are 2 single radiation light source. One is the Hefei light source 2, and another one is the Shanghai single radiation facility. And there is also a high energy photo source called AfPS in Beijing. It's under construction. It is close to studying the combination of the storage ring, maybe in the next year. You can see in the low energy spectrum, Hefei light source 2 is a 2nd generation light source. So many years ago, we promote to construction a 4th generation light source to cover the low energy spectrum. It's called Hefei Advanced Light Facility for HARF. The concept is designed as the big eye to explore the microscopic world, just as shown in the left figure. HARF is a wholly new built 4th generation light source, and it will be built in a new campus about 40 kilometers from our current campus. These 3 pictures show the concept of the HARF. The scientific goal of HARF is to achieve accurate measurement of electronic states, chemical states, and light element structures of complex systems. Many advanced experimental methods will be used in this new facility. The whole facility consists of a full energy LINAC with a beam energy of 2.2 GeV, about 190 meters long. Then the beam through the transport line, the beam will be injected into the storage ring, and the circumference of the ring is about 480 meters. Total of 35 beam lines have been planted 10 of them will be constructed in phase 1. And the total construction period is 64 months through this from this June. So it should be finished in September of 2028. This table gives the main parameters of the storage ring, being energy of 2.2 GeV, and the natural emittance is more than 100 picometers. And we have 40 straight sections for injection and insertion device, 20 long and 20 short ones. At least two figures show the magnet distribution along the ring and the element distribution along the straight section. We use a modified hybrid 6BA lattice structure. This lattice combining the advantage of the SLS2 and ESR for EBS, so we can achieve ultra-low beam emittance and excellent nonlinear beam dynamics performance. In addition, the maximal field gradient of the magnets will not be too high, so technically it is relatively easy to be accomplishment. We use the off-axis cumulative local bump injection model with 3 kickers and 1 septon. The middle kicker is well known as the anti-septon, and this injection model will be used in several fourth-generation light source. This slide shows the magnets used in the storage ring, including the longitudinal field gradient bending magnets and other, just such as the quadrupole and the corrector. The total number of the magnets used in the storage ring is 900. And a 500 MHz superconducting cavity and a third harmonic cavity is used. Both of them are superconducting cavities. These 2 cavities will be placed in one long straight section. Just the same as other fourth generation light source, vacuum system is always challenging for the storage ring because of the small aperture and the little space between the magnets. So we need to develop a neck coating technique. We have been developing the neck coating technique for many years. Here are some equipment pictures in our lab. Here are beamline list of half phase 1. One can find that 10 beamlines, and we focus on low energy region. One can find that most of them are in the UV to soft X-ray region. Only 2 reach the tender X-ray. It is a good complementary to other light sources in China. Besides these 10 beamlines, another 15 beamlines is also blended for the phase 2 in green lines. Okay, a short introduction to Pelican. It's an infrared FER facility. It's also the first FER user device covering middle and far infrared region in China since last year. Now it is open to users and dedicated to energy chemistry research. The maximum beam energy of the accelerator is 60 MeV, and it covers from 2 to 200 micrometers. We can find that from 5 to 50 micrometers, the pulse energy at the user table is really high. Currently, this facility has 5 beamlines serving the fields of energy chemistry, catalysis science, material science, and so on. Till now, we have published more than 60 high-level research papers, including science, physical review letter, and so on. And there are still space available for 3 more beamlines. Okay, just a very brief overview. A summary, and our lab have 3 facilities. Hefei Light Source 2 is runs for many years and still in good condition. The infrared FER is opening to users since last year and is expected to contribute to the energy chemistry research. Half is a new build 4th generation light source, and its construction starts from this June. Last words I want to say is that after more than 40 years activities in synchrotron radiation and FER, we have achieved technical accumulation in many fields, such as design and construction of accelerators and beamlines and stations and experimental methods and so on. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that excellent presentation. Are there questions? Any hands raised? I don't see any hands. I do have a question myself, though. You were trying to cover the spectrum, and you went all the way down to the UV, but not into the infrared with your synchrotron. Is that because you know you were going to build an FEL for the infrared region, or why was the decision for the synchrotron itself not to go that low in energy?
Yes, actually not, because our new facility, new synchrotron radiation is also cover the infrared, but it's not because the energy is increased from 800 MeV to 2.2 GeV. So the radiation light in infrared is not better than the Hefei Light Source 2. So in this picture, in this figure, we didn't cover the infrared, but actually it covers.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, I was a bit puzzled by that. Okay. Any other questions?
I just wanted to know the cost of such a synchrotron.
Okay. I remember I have read in some place. I just find the total budget is 2.8 billion RMB, Chinese yuan.
Yeah. What is that in terms of euros?
Divided by 7.
Yeah.
About 0.4 billion euros.
Okay, great. Okay.
Oh, that's really amazing. How many synchrotrons are in China altogether?
Currently 2. Currently there are 2 synchrotrons.
Yeah, the one in Shanghai?
One is in Shanghai and one is in our laboratory, the Hefei Light Source 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think after 5 years, there will be 4 and even more.
Oh, that's really, really interesting that you have built one focusing really there and you have that good coverage of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Let's see, we have a couple of comments. Phil Oladijo says the energy coding in small size vacuum chamber. Can you expand on this?
Okay. Because there are only because the time is very urgent, so I just give a very brief overview. Actually, we do many do the development of neck coating for about close to 10 years. Till now, we can coat a very small size vacuum chamber, like with diameter of about 20 millimeters. And for some special vacuum chamber, such as insertion device vacuum chamber, we can coating about in the very narrow vacuum chamber, just with the size of several millimeters.
Okay, great. Okay, so next there's a comment. The fact Robert Hittel says that 2 GeV advanced light source in the U.S. has a significant infrared program. So just to sort of follow up on what you were saying earlier about your decision about your infrared, they have essentially the same beam energy, electron beam energy, and they do a lot of infrared science. So I don't know if that's sort of a comment. I guess you don't have any response to it. Did you want to say something about that?
I know you mean. Yes, we also very, very care about the ASU electron tool, and generally speaking, we are in the same level of the performance of the storage ring. We have our emittance maybe is a little, and the nature here we didn't show the comparison of the main parameters. Maybe we have a large, because the circumference of the half is about 2 times larger than the ASU and the electron tool, but we have a little small emittance, and so the brightness is a little high, and so the coherent fraction. The reason we choose the large circumference is to achieve the goal of more 3D sections, because we want to fulfill the user demand in China. So we need to build more insertion devices and beamlines and stations.
Okay.
I hope I say clear.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Okay, so Giorgio has a hand.
Yeah, just a comment about infrared. With these new machines, the installation of infrared beamlines is far from obvious. The reason is that, as I mentioned, the vacuum chamber is extremely small, and it is very, very difficult to put the optics very as close to the storage ring as you would like. Moreover, but this is something, I mean, we are looking into it, so we don't have a final solution for our infrared program. And moreover, in our case, for example, we have, for various reasons, we have to introduce anti-bands. And of course, anti-bands, which are close to the bending magnets, emit also infrared radiation with the opposite phase. So you have to combine the emission of the two, and again, it's not an easy task. However, we're working on it. I was just wanted to mention these difficulties. I mean, it's not as easy as it used to be on third generation machines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that also it's serious. They had problems. I know that Paul Dumas was involved with that, but really it's a combination of mechanical issues and also physics. So you have to take into account the effect of these antibands, and so yes.
Okay, great.
Lower energy, like at ALS, it's a bit easier. But I mean, we are going to work at fixed at 2.4 GeV, and now we're working at 2 or 2.4. The new machine is going to work at 2.4 fixed, and really it's a complicated issue. Just wanted to mention that. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Thanks again, for your presentation. So we will have to stay in contact with you. Okay, so the last presentation is Professor Simo Watari, who will tell us about the Finnish synchrotron radiation user organization. So I turn it over to you, Simo.
Yes, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Perfect. Yeah, I would like to tell greetings from Finland, but as it happens, I happen to be at the moment at the European synchrotron radiation facility performing experiments, and I occupied the laboratory space for this talk, as you can see from the background. Thank you very much for the invitation. This was a very nice interaction through the X channel, former Twitter, where you asked if we can participate, and it's a pleasure to be here. Sharing with you some notes about activities in a country where we don't have our own synchrotron, but we have active user base, and we have active people developing beamlines at various synchrotrons. So I will share my slides. I think this is the right one. Can you see my title slide now?
Yes, that's perfect.
Yes, perfect. So yes, actually, well, the Finnish Synchrotron Radiation User Organization, FSRUO, is actually very recently founded in a way, only 2008, but it's a registered organization in Finland, which means that there's a governance. We have some sort of legal status. We could, in principle, collect membership fees, and we could, in principle, recruit a person, for example. However, we have opted to be a non-profit organization where we don't have membership is free, but we participate in several activities. For example, in negotiations with our research council about our national research infrastructure roadmap, which includes ESRF, the European synchrotron, and MAX4 laboratory, the synchrotron in Sweden. And this includes funding from Finland to build several beamlines at MAX4 laboratory, and then as a partner of the ESRF. So we pay the membership fees to these facilities. We have about 250 members in FSRUO. Not all of them are always active because we have a free membership, but I think about 100 are really active. And we have several cities with universities that are the main centers. And most of our research is different type of materials research, physics, crystallography, medical research. One of the legal status of the registered organization that we are actually obliged to keep a meeting, General Assembly every year, in which we attach an annual Synchrotron Light Finland workshop, which has scientific program. We organize schools and Marie Curie fellowship programs for research at the synchrotron facilities. And we have an organization webpage. Unfortunately, we are just now bringing that webpage down from it. It's an old one, and we are making a new one, so it's not currently fully functional. If you go there, you might see some glitches. Sorry about that. And we participate in public activities related to, for example, in past International Year of Light and International Year of Crystallography and so on. But okay, we don't have a synchrotron of our own. We are there to present and promote the research and the possibilities that synchrotron radiation and also free electron laser have to offer. We organize these meetings, we coordinate this, sorry, I have to move this. We coordinate the development of infrastructure roadmaps and also the beamlines and data acquisition and data analysis tools. And we have then, because of our legal status, we have a possibility to communicate more easily with the governance and the decision makers. And we are part of the European Synchrotron User Organization. We are participating in their regular meetings, so we are networking in this way. For example, one big activity is organization of a separate entity, which is FIMAX, which represents Finnish users at the MAX4 laboratory. That's we participate in the steering committee of FIMAX. It's a different entity as such, but FIMAX is a consortium of Finnish universities and organization with a legal collaboration agreement with the MAX4 laboratory. And we contribute to MAX4 by providing equipment, personnel, in-house contributions, and we have partnership funding from our research council, which has to be applied every 5 years. But in return, then there's a possibility for from our Finnish side to place staff and equipment and get a guaranteed access time from the MAX4 laboratory. And we have a member in the Science Advisory Committee and the Beam Time Proposal Committee. So we have ongoing activities there. This is our governance. So the FSRUO has a board legally mandated by the law, and it tries to have a representation from different universities representing the Finnish synchrotron users. So this shows the development graph of the number of registered users in our organization. There's no membership fee, and again, even if there are no facility in Finland, we are active, and we try to also approach as a group of people with more stamina to approach also companies and industry to get them also active on board and in contributing to synchrotron research and valorization of the results. So we are in the landscape with several synchrotrons around. We have been the founding member of ESRF from ESRF very beginning, as a part of the NordSync, which is a syndicate of 4 Northern European countries, and our contribution in total for NordSync is about 5% of the running costs of the ESRF. But of course, there are other synchrotrons around Europe which we can use, but these two are the main ones that because of the partnership we are using. And this shows some graphs about the different fields of science that are represented and different facilities that our users have reported to use. So the synchrotron usage is increasing, especially the MAX4 and ESRF usages are increasing, and much of the research is physics, material science, and structural biology and chemistry then as well. But again, I think it's important to not be only a user, but if you are part of a project from its very beginning, there is a much more chances to be able to participate in the development. And Finnish people have been, and the people from the Finnish institutes have been very active also in the beamline development. So, for example, where I'm currently located, ID20, it is an inelastic scattering and spectroscopy beamline at ESRF. And it's dedicated especially for looking at soft X-ray absorption etches using hard X-rays and resonant inelastic X-ray scattering. We have beamlines. Antti Kivimäki was, as far as I understand, talking about their beamline at the Max 4 laboratory. There's a high energy material science beamline with our alumni Veijo Hankkimäki was developed biomedical beamline at the SRF, and the 4max at Max 4. This is a funny name for 4max at Max 4 beamline dedicated to hierarchical structures of materials, especially wood and cellulose systems, half funded by industry. These are all people who have either been alumni from Finnish universities and institutes or are currently located in Finnish universities that built these beamlines. So roadmap towards a synchrotron. Currently, at the moment, we feel that it's not really realistic to really plan a large-scale facility inside Finland. The strategy is indeed to continue to use the collaboration with other countries and join forces. For example, what we are doing and with the Max 4 and ESRF memberships and enlarging that. However, we have been investigating possibilities to invest in a compact light source. Like, for example, there was a presentation today from Munich about that, and that could be a university-located facility. And then there's something that we offer our students and those who are interested to learn about the possibilities. Spectroscopy, microtomography, and X-ray scattering, photoelectron spectroscopy are widely used in local laboratories. So we combine the use of synchrotron and these laboratory sources for education and testing purposes. We offer industry possibility to try what they could do with a synchrotron, and then we help them to write synchrotron proposals or buy synchrotron beam time as they like. So this is much ongoing activity then to combine the local forces and then use the international partnerships. For example, I show something that has been coming up recently is if one would like to do X-ray absorption spectroscopy, which is sometimes which has been dominated by synchrotron users. We have built setups that help users to educate and train using low brilliance laboratory-based X-ray sources. With, for example, this shows a spectrometer in Helsinki where we have a Johan type spectrometer, and it basically mimics a synchrotron in the end, and we can even obtain sometimes data quality on X-AFs and other X-ray absorption and emission spectroscopies that are roughly on par even with the synchrotron. So sometimes it helps to not only educate and train, but also prepare for synchrotron experiments to make the best use of the valuable synchrotron beam time. So these kinds of activities are also very important, not to be forgotten. So this is another picture of this X-AF station. It's based on a spherical elliptic crystal analyzers and this regular X-ray diffraction power X-ray source. And it's a small scale instrument perfect for student and scientist training. So I show here some references to what one can do with such a device, and this is perfect for like I say, doing experiments also in the home laboratory on the way to use a synchrotron. This shows some near edge absorption spectra of copper, even from thin films down to nanometer scale thickness. So I hope I have been able to show you some of our activities, what kind of things we do in Finland with a country without a synchrotron, and I hope you have enjoyed my talk and I'm ready to talk answer questions. And this shows somehow the scenery now in Finland. It's low power light sources around the. This is kind of the sun at its highest point in Helsinki region this time of year. The days are very short, but then you might have a possibility to see the northern lights, aurora borealis. With this, I end. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there questions?
Yeah, wow, it was wonderful to see. I just wondered, could you expand why you said you wouldn't consider a synchrotron light source in Finland now? Is it finance? Is it the population, the user base? And then you mentioned a CLS, if you can expand on both of those?
Yes. So currently, I believe that I have shown that we would have a user base. We have enough active user community. The thing is basically the financial situation. Finland is a small country. We have low population. In the end, it's always a question about deciding about the use of the resources. So up to now, we have been reasonably successful in using these international partnerships, and that will, of course, we would be very happy to have a synchrotron or a free electron laser, but it's mostly the cost issue that we are struggling with. So that's why I said that it's not realistic. It would be a dream, but this is at the moment the political landscape. But compact light source, we have been. This is actually something that in our university at the University of Helsinki we have been thinking about, and this could be one way to do this with 1/10 of the investment, and that would be more reasonable to think on in long-term plan. One has to also think about operation costs and so on, so that it's basically the resource issue.
And what is the door-to-door travel time to somewhere like Max 4 for you?
From door to door, there's 1.5 hour flight to Denmark, and then a 1 hour train drive. So it's a half a day. If you leave in the morning, you are there by lunchtime. To ESRF, it's more like 1 full working day. If you leave in the morning, you arrive early afternoon, before dinner at least.
Yeah, I can see you're quite close, really.
Can you tell me how does your GDP compare to Sweden's?
It's smaller. Now I don't have a number here that would be found probably by Googling. Sweden seems to have more investment options. One thing in Sweden is the Knut and Alice Wallenberg Foundation, which is very generous towards science, and we don't have that resource in Finland. And they have funded, now I don't remember by heart, maybe half of or even more of the Max 4 laboratory.
Yeah, they also have the neutron scattering center there too. They seem to have a lot of money for some reason.
That's Max 4 is relatively inexpensive compared to the European spallation source. They are both located on the same campus in Lund, and ESS is being built and commissioned hopefully by, I don't know what is the current number, 2028, but something. But the ESS is hugely more expensive effort, and that is a European joint collaboration. Obviously, it's not only Sweden.
Sure. Okay. Are there any other questions? I don't see any hands raised at this point. So thank you so much for your very nice presentation, and I wish you luck, and I wish to see a synchrotron facility in Helsinki soon.
Right, we hope to partner with you on some important objectives in 2024 and beyond.
Great. Okay, so I will turn it over to Simon. He's our fearless leader.
I thought you would do the closing. So we've had our 4th wonderful day. Very, very interesting talks. And we had our colleagues from the Greater Caribbean, very, very similar to us, and kicked off with the ESRF and gone all the way through to this session. So it's been a fantastic day. And once again, thank you to everyone who's presented, and thank you for the audience. Have a good evening, folks.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.